Hey folks! Welcome back to the You Want Pizzazz channel. Today, you're going to be learning 3 unique color grading looks in Premiere Pro. We've got the Super 8 film look, we've got the Dreamy Glow color grade, and the Day to Night color grading tutorial. I don't want to be wasting anybody's time, so please make sure to use the time codes in the description below. We are going to start off by opening up Premiere Pro here. I already have my sequence created and my footage in the timeline. There's a link to this footage down below, so make sure to download that if you want to use the exact footage I'm using today. And the first thing we are going to do is actually take a screenshot of this footage, and we can do that by clicking this little camera option here to export the frame. We're going to leave it as a PNG, and for sure you can just put it on your desktop. Okay, now we're going to move on over to Photoshop briefly, and we're going to drag that screenshot in. We are going to make a custom gradient based on the screenshot, just using the colors in this picture. I'm going to go with the reds and the oranges. So I'm going to use my color picker tool to pick a dark red. Here is good. And then I will use the other square to do a light orange. And I might go on the higher end of the orange because I really want there to be a contrast between the colors. Now, if I go into my gradient tool, and you can adjust this however you want to. If you want it more red or more orange, I'm going to keep it down the middle. I'm going to press OK. So my gradient is made. We're going to create a new layer in Photoshop, and then we're going to just drag the gradient across like this. And you can do this in many different directions. You could do it diagonally. You know, whatever floats your boat. Once you are happy with this gradient, we are going to export it as a PNG. So go to File, Save As, and then just save it as gradient. Make sure it's set as a PNG file and click Save. Press OK. Alright, we're done with Photoshop for now, so just close that. And we are going to drag this gradient into the project. We are now ready to create the effect. So the first thing I want you to do is select the file itself, go into your Lumetri color panel, and I want you to adjust the faded film. Adjust this however you want. You can always go back later and change it. So I'm going to make it like this. Now I'm going to add the gradient on top. You just drag that on there. And I'm going to get you to select Effect Controls, make sure your layer is selected, and change the blend mode to Vivid Light. And the reason I choose this extreme blend mode is because you can really see the gradient, and that's what we want. And the good thing is that we can change the opacity, so we're gonna dim it down just a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna get you to make an adjustment layer. So right click in the project, click New Item, and Adjustment Layer. And we are going to drag this on top. We are going to go into Effects and search Noise. Go down here and we're going to click this noise and we're going to drag it on to the adjustment layer. And again, this is up to you preference wise, but you can make it as noisy as you want it to be. Obviously that is too much. So we're going to go down to whatever we feel is a comfortable amount. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now we are going to go into Effects. We are going to search for Crop. I'm going to drag her onto the adjustment layer. And we are going to set the left to 14% and the right to 14%. Okay, that's it folks. That is the old film effect. It's really simple. All you have to do is create a custom gradient from the colors, add a little bit of noise and a crop, and you got a whole new look. So you can see I have 2 clips on the timeline. I've already applied just a basic color grade, basic color correction on top of that. So I would advise doing that before you start here, because everything we're going to be doing is on an adjustment layer. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in the project bin here, click New Item, and hit Adjustment Layer. Press OK. Go ahead and drag this adjustment layer on layer 2. On top of your video clip, I'm going to just drag this across here of the first clip. And we're just going to get started on this first clip. Go into the Effects panel and search for the Gaussian Blur effect. Here it is. and just drag that onto the adjustment layer. Now pay attention to these settings here. We're going to set the blurriness to 100. We're going to hit repeat edge pixels, and we're going to lower the opacity. Do this based on your preference, but I'm going to keep it around 70. You can already see that it's got that glowy, hazy look, which we like. Now let's play around with the lighting and the color. Make sure that your Lumetri color panel is open. Go under Windows and hit Lumetri color if you don't see it on the right there. Now with the adjustment layer selected, I'm going to adjust the Lumetri scopes a bit. Underneath the curves, lift up these curves here. Give it a bit of an overexposed look. And we're going to bring down the curves at the bottom here to kind of give it a bit of contrast. I'm going to go into the Creative tab. We're going to bump up the saturation. That looks pretty cool. It looks like you're in a dream. You've got that hazy, glowy look that we want. We've pumped up the color and it looks really good. Again, we can adjust the settings if you find that the Gaussian blur is too much. We can always lower the opacity. So find a happy medium for yourself. Let's move on to the second clip. Again, we are going to go and drag that adjustment layer on top of the second clip. Drag it all the way across. And we're going to start fresh again. Go into Effects, drag that Gaussian blur effect on. We're going to change it to 100, repeat edge pixels, and we're going to change the opacity, bring it down a bit to a place we're happy with. I think around 80 is okay. Underneath the curves, we're going to bring up the brightness here, and we're going to bring down the curves here as well. I think that looks pretty cool. Now let's bump up the saturation as well. I really like how this looks. It really looks like she's in a dream. Well, that's all there is to it, folks. It's all about just playing around with the Gaussian blur effect, playing around with the curves, and bumping up the saturation to give you that dreamy look. I am just going to open up Premiere Pro here, and I've got my 3 clips on the timeline that we're going to transform. If you'd like to use the exact clips I'm using today, you can download it in the description below. The first thing I want you to do is create a black matte. So you can do that by right-clicking in the project bin, New Item, Color Matte. Press OK, and we want to make sure that it is a black. Press OK. Now I'm just going to drag this onto layer 2. With the black matte selected, I'm going to change the blending mode to soft light. That is the first step. Now we're going to alter each individual clip. So for this first one, I'm going to select video 1. I'm going to go into my Lumetri color panel. And if you don't see this, you can actually go under Window and you can just click Lumetri color. So under basic correction, I'm going to just bring down the exposure to around here. And we can always adjust this later. And I'm going to change the temperature to a blue. Now let's pop up the highlights a bit. And we're already looking pretty good. If you find that it is a bit too contrasty, you can also bump up the shadows. You can play around with the saturation. If you think it's too blue, you can always bring it down a bit. But I also think the blue adds something nice. So that's the first clip. Why don't we move on to the second one? So again, under basic correction, we're going to bring down the exposure. We're going to change the temperature to a blue. And again, you can bump up the highlights and the shadows so you can see a little more. And again, you can mess around with the saturation. But I think here is nice. Okay, third clip. Again, make sure the clip is selected. We are going to bring down the exposure. We're going to bump up the temperature to blue. We're going to bump up the highlights a bit and the shadows. You can decide what you want to do with the saturation. But I think here is okay. And there you have it, folks. This is a really simple trick to transform your footage into night footage. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the You Want Pizzazz channel for more Adobe tutorials. Thanks so much for watching and have an awesome day.